Kaya nga lamang bilang ama ng lalawigan ay nakikita ko na talagang ang pangangailangan natin ngayon at sa hinaharap ay talagang Presidente BBM at Sara for Vice President.
Hindi po tayo makangako ng numero, pero sisiguraduhin po natin panalo dito.
Robredo brings her campaign to Oriental Mindoro, where Marcos only got half of her votes in the 2016 vice presidential race. She recognized the youth's active role in her campaign.
Marami yung first-time voters. Di ba pag first time, ayaw mong sayangin? Kaya sa atin po ang hinihingi natin sa mga first-time voters, ang kapangyarihan nasa kamay ninyo. Huwag po natin itong sasayangin sa pagboto ng hindi tama.
Senator Manny Pacquiao downplays the so-called solid North support for Marcos. Thousands of supporters attended Pacquiao's campaign activities in the province of Pangasinan. Senator Ping Lacson and his running mate Tito Soto ended their South Luzon campaign leg in Sorsogon, where senatorial candidate and Governor Cheese Escudero showed up on stage, but he did not openly endorse the duo. While Lacson recognizes that Bicol may support the candidacy of Robredo, he is not convinced that the region will be solid behind the Naga native.
There's no such thing as somebody's country, so to speak. Even the so-called solid North, minsan meron ding crack, ang solid North. Wala talaga solid. It's really up to the voters.
And Manila Mayor Isko Moreno says he will continue the war against illegal drugs, except that law enforcers will not be allowed to knock on doors of drug suspects without a search or arrest warrant. Meanwhile, Moreno clarifies his use of the 2 joints hand sign does not mean he condones the use of recreational drugs. A clip of him flashing the sign went viral after supporters asked him to do it.
This is not drugs. Yeah? This is 2 joints. Diba? 2 joints. Drugs ba yun? Kita mo, Isko, Doc Willie. Ito pa isa. Yorme, Ong. Pwede? Chill. Don't panic. It's organic. I always wanted to relate to our constituents. I think one of the key success or one of the elements in leadership is you understand your people.
Senatorial candidate and labor lawyer Luke Espiritu goes viral after getting into a heated argument with 2 fellow contenders in a debate. At the SMNI senatorial debate Wednesday, Espiritu clashed with former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque and suspended lawyer Larry Gadon about martial law. That's after Espiritu said schools should teach children about the human rights violations under the late dictator, former President Ferdinand Marcos. Let's watch this.
I'll go by the
Bakit nyo isisisi kay Marcos yun?
It's my time.
We should not use this forum for a propaganda against the Marcoses.
Binuksan mo ang usapan, wag mo akong pagbawalan. I go by the record, Amnesty International, 3,257 ang pinatay nung panahon ni Marcos. 35,000 ang mga It's my time, wag kang bastos.
Kung ano man ang nangyari sa nakaraan, inisa-isa ko po ang records. Wala pong kaso for human rights violation sa Amerika si Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Sa isa ko rin po ang mga kaso na decided po ng ating Philippine Supreme Court. Totoo po, co-administrator si Ferdinand Bobong Marcos, wala pong kaso na siya mismo nagnakaw.
With all due respect to Attorney Harry Roque, I know your history. You were anti-Marcos before. You were for human rights before. Your life, you spent your life against the Marcoses, you work for human rights, and now that you were given a Senate spot under the party of Bongbong Marcos, now you cry hallelujah and praise Marcos.
There was nothing respectful with what you said against me. Ang katotohanan po ang pinag-uusapan, hindi po ang patay na Marcos, ang pinag-uusapan ang buhay na Marcos. Sa akin po, panagutin ang mga nagkasala, Pero yung mga hindi po gumawa ng kahit anong kasalanan, wag po natin idamay sa sisi.
Espiritu is on the senatorial slate of Caliotti de Guzman and Walden Bello. We now go above and beyond the headlines with the man himself, ang sabi daw di bardagulan, senatorial candidate and labor lawyer Luke Espiritu. Attorney Luke, magandang hapon sa inyo.
Yes, magandang hapon.
I'm sorry, magandang gabi pala, sorry.
Yes, magandang gabi at sa inyo at saka sa mga viewers ninyo.
Okay, so bardagulan daw. You are our, in a very long time, our first studio guest, emphasis on studio,
Oh,
no?
yes.
Dahil nga alert level 1, no? Pero, alam mo, chinek ko yung Twitter mo eh. So, kagabi daw, mga 2,000, no? Followers mo.
I actually,
Ngayon?
I'm not sure because the Twitter is handled by my team.
Okay.
But of course,
Well,
in consultation with me.
Okay, FYI, 17,800
Oh,
as of 10 minutes ago.
yeah, I heard, yeah.
Oo, pero ang kailangan mo, hindi Twitter followers, kundi boto. Tama?
Yes, we need votes and we need supporters and we need to create a movement against all of these lies that are going around.
A movement against all these lies. Okay, let's talk about last night's debate, no? So, meron kang sinabi after eh, parang kulang pa ang bakbakan, gustong-gusto mong parang gigil na gigil ka na, at sabi sana marami pang encuentro with sina attorneys Gadon and Roque.
Because we need to expose these people. They are peddling lies about this chapter in our nation's history, which is the darkest chapter. And you know, it is really difficult if our new generation of Filipinos are learning these lies and imbibing the values of the regime of Marcos. Kasi yung regime na yan na hindi rumirespeto sa human rights at gino-glorify ang authoritarian rule. And if we have that as values, kawawa naman ang ating lipunan.
You didn't mince any words last night, no? Like as we showed, wag kang bastos, and then you were telling Harry na, you know, you're singing hallelujah to the Marcoses now. Ano to, Attorney Luke? Parang nothing to lose, you know, just dish it all
It
out.
was not intended, although I think it's bound to happen. If you put the three of us in a room, it's bound to happen that we're going to argue. But it was never intended. I was triggered by the comment of Larry Gadon to a question about juvenile or children in conflict with the law. And he inserted a comment about priests teaching children about the evils of the Marcos regime. So it was a debate. And if it was a debate, you should be ready to refute that point.
To do a rebuttal.
And I was doing that when he interrupted me. Kung hindi niya ako in-interrupt, hindi naman ganun ka acrimonious ang exchange. But he did So I had to stand my ground. And then Harry Roque came to his defense, and I also have to answer Harry Roque. So that's what happened. If he did not insert that comment, I would just have answered the questions that were thrown to us by the panel.
Okay. Meron ka ring sinabi kagabi, no? Medyo nakaka-nervous kasi when someone, you know, politiko, kandidato, or lawmaker, no, the minute you say, with all due respect, parang hindi totoo eh. Parang bardagulan na talaga.
That's what we do in court because for me, our training as lawyers, if we may argue and then heatedly, but then after that we call ourselves pañero, and that's actually how we address each other with all due respect. That's genuine because I'm not against you personally. That's our training as lawyers.
But you're against what they say.
What they represent.
What they represent.
And we could have a heated argument, but later on, we could call ourselves pañero, no problem.
Okay. Let's talk very briefly about your background. So you went to, well, you're born in Bacolod, so you went to school, the first few years of grade school in Bacolod.
Yes.
And then lumipat kayo dito na Manila, La Salle Grade School, Ateneo High School, Ateneo College, Ateneo
Law school.
Law School.
Yes.
No? And then, so college 97, 2002.
Law school.
Law school.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to us about that first. And, you know, because syempre people are wondering, no, parang you seem to have had a privileged upbringing. Those are the words that were used on social media. And it's not hindi naman siya, it's not criticism of you. It's an observation. Parang privileged upbringing, privileged background. And then you end up here as a labor lawyer. Tell us what happened.
Actually, my life is a contradiction. Okay, we were not wealthy. My father was also a lawyer, but he has to raise 7 children.
Wow.
He was
Okay.
a lawyer.
7. You are number what?
I'm the youngest.
Okay.
And hindi naman kami ganun kayaman. Professional lang ang tatay ko. At ang mga kaibigan ko ay, simula pa nung bata ako, ay yung mga kapitbahay namin sa kanto. And tapos naging religious pa ako, naging katikista. Therefore, talagang ang nakakasalamuha ko talaga ay yung mga nasa underprivileged ng ating lipunan. And you talk to anyone who knows me, hindi ako privileged. At talagang masang-masa ang aking lifestyle.
Oo.
In fact, matatawa sila pag sinabi niyong privileged ako. Doon lang ako nag-Amerikana sa SMNA.
Ganon. Okay.
Yes, but if you really knew me and saw me on the street, talagang masa, napagkakamalan nga ako Kahit lawyer na, napagkakamalan tayong marami na, taxi driver, taga-ayos ng aircon. No one will say na elite ako. And that contradiction is what really contributed to what I'm doing right now. Because although my father is a lawyer, then that also qualifies us as middle class. Therefore, I could afford, or my father could afford to send me to Ateneo. Pero yung kultura ko naman masa, manggagawa naman, ang nakakasalamuha ko masa at manggagawa. Therefore, fusing the two, then my intellectual development will only lead me towards the workers.
So when you were in school, for example, Ateneo College, I went to Ateneo also, so you would hang out where? And then with who? What were your school orgs?
My friends were scholars in the Ateneo.
Okay.
Because the Ateneo, even from sa high school until college, maraming scholars yan Yun ang mga kaibigan ko. Yung mga binigyan ng free tuition sa Ateneo, and they were deserving students from the public schools. So you would see kung ano yung aking kultura. Kultura ko talaga masa. And then in the Ateneo, wala namang aktivismo at the time. But I was born in the Marcos era. So I was politicized at the time. My father was involved in a case, extrajudicial killing in Kabangkalan, Mayor Pablo Sola. That was a case
What do you
where
mean involved in a case?
he prosecuted the landlord who was accused of killing the tenant farmers in Kabangkalan. And growing up, those are the things that you see, you hear. And the priests in Bacolod were all activist priests. So I was pretty much politicized even when I was young. Pero walang aktivismo nung college ako until kasi bumagsak yung Soviet Union at the time. It was a time na medyo humihina ang aktivismo sa mga schools. So until law school yan. And then the Gloria Arroyo became president, and I could not accept that. And then that was the time na I was reaching out to different groups until I was so-called discovered by San Lakas.
Discovered.
Yes.
Yeah. But you could have, like, as a lawyer, you could have gone corporate. You were with, what is it, IBM?
Chavez Miranda Aseocho.
Okay.
Aseocho, the law firm founded by former Solicitor General Frank Chavez.
Okay.
Yes. I joined them in 2004 until 2008. And the reason why I left was because I told Frank Chavez when I was alive, I'm going to join the revolution. Yes. And
which revolution? Which one?
2008. Well, that was just a matter of speaking. But I'm going to join the mass movement, which will be
So,
fighting
kumbaga
for
dun talaga yung puso mo na you wanted to be on the labor front lines and picket lines, ganun.
Yes, at heart, I'm an activist.
Okay. What is it? We're going to have to take a quick break. Do we need to take a break right now? Yeah. Okay, wala na tayong break. Dire-diretso na tayo. Sige. Okay, I also brought up yung Ateneo background mo kasi nag-com arts ka, no? Communication arts. And earlier, before the show, I was asking you, com arts? Why would you take com arts? And then biglang nag-abogado. And you said it was just a pre-law course.
Yeah, it was pre-law. I was not really into it. So I just, my aim is really to become a lawyer. It was a random choice in the Ateneo. I just wanted to breeze through college so that I will have a pre-law degree. And then I'll proceed to law school.
Okay. And, well, I was wondering also communications, which could mean that, alam mo yung value of communicating, and therefore, value of communicating in a clear and concise manner, the way you did. No,
I learned that not from school.
Not from school.
I learned that from Ninoy Aquino. and from the great orators like Malcolm X. I study them. I study their style. Because honestly, I think that it's part of convincing our kababayans.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about the legislation, the kind of legislation you would like to do if you are elected. Although, I mean, if you look at the surveys, parang medyo nandun ka sa
Yeah, I'm
baba.
at the bottom.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. But, kapag nakita mo yung listahan na yon, syempre isipin ng tae, kaya pala ninenervyos yung mga negosyante at mga negosyo sa kanya, kung quote unquote, kung ano-anong naisip niya, no? The question here is, what's good for business and businessmen doon sa mga gusto mo mangyari, di ba? Like, you don't want any more, yung mga
Manpower agencies.
manpower agencies.
Yes. It's not bad for them. It's not bad for them because the manpower agencies are useless. They are parasites. They don't have any purpose or importance in doing business. They are just another layer created in order for our companies and establishments to deny employer and employee relationships. We will do away with the manpower agencies, business will go on. And imagine in Utopia, okay? You hire a worker and then you give 10% on top of their salary to the manpower agency. You actually spend more for each worker. So for every worker you hire and pay 537 pesos, that's at least based on the DOLE regulations, based on Department Order 174, the manpower agency will get 10% equivalent of 537. That's 53.7 more that you pay for every worker because you have to pay the manpower agency. And I'm talking about the minimum. Others charge 12%. So why do they do that? Why would they spend more? But when the worker, organizes a union and proposes CBA, hindi nga nila nakukuha yung 53.7 pesos increase a day eh. Ang mga binibigay lang ng mga establishments natin ay minsan piso, 2 piso, 10 piso, malaki na. But they're willing to spend 53.7.
Yeah. Calyodi brought it up also during the debate, 750 pesos minimum wage. Do you think that's even possible? Is that something that businessmen, big business will want to do?
Yes, because salaries are really below, way below cost of living. And ideally, you pay works. You pay your workers anything that is necessary for the worker to be able to work the next day. Meaning to say, everything, food, and electricity, anything that is necessary for that, that's what you pay the worker. And the excess of that is your profit. So, if you pay the worker his cost of living, meaning to say your profit is still secured. But the problem is, we pay the workers here in our country below his cost of living. Secretary Pernia already said that for a worker to be able to survive, he has to earn 42,000 pesos a month. That's 1,615 a day. And if you give 537, that's only, what, 1/3 or less than 1/3 of his cost of living. 750 is not even equivalent to the cost of living. Medyo discount pa nga eh. Because our formulation is give the workers 750, then we will have to look for policies to reduce the cost of living. Meaning to say, para hindi na gumastos yung mga negosyante, pababain natin yung kuryente, pababain natin yung tubig.
Naku, ang daming aaray dyan.
Actually,
Yung
matutuwa ang
may-ari.
negosyante dapat dyan. Kasi part ng cost of production niya, kuryente. Di ba? Ang taas-taas ng cost of production niya, dahil ang taas-taas ng kuryente. Number 1 tayo sa pinakamahal na kuryente sa Pilipinas. Dapat, pagka yan ang programa natin, pababain natin ang kuryente para ang mga manggagawa naman natin ay mabuhay at mabumaba ang kanilang cost of living. Equivalent rin yun sa pagbaba ng cost of production ng mga
Baka
negosyante.
ang umaray naman doon, yung kumpanya ng kuryente, yung...
Ay, dapat lang, alam mo, yung sobra-sobra tubong lugaw yung kita nila. I also represented, the Watchdog Freedom from Debt Coalition in the ERC. Ang laki-laki ng kinikita nila, guaranteed, na return on rate base. Hindi sila aray dapat doon. Like for example, kumikita ka halimbawa ng 10 million sa isang negosyo mo. Babawasan mo yung 10 million ng 2 million. Mayroon ka pa rin 8 million. Binawasan mo ng 2 million. Hindi ka na ba magnenegosyo nun? May 8 million ka pa nga eh. Konting bawas lang para naman medyo makatarungan naman ang ating sistema dito.
Do you really think you can win? Or is this like parang ano to, parang the impossible dream, Don Quixote, you know, going up against the windmills.
There are two aspects to the way I see it.
By the way, you have 18,300 followers now. I just checked on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Going back to that question,
Yes, the question.
There are two ways I look at it. You know, I would like to adopt yung sinabi ni na Italian socialist Gramsci. Sabi niya, pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. Meaning to say, when you look at things and evaluate things, you must, you know, have the pessimism of the intellect. You accept what are your weaknesses and try to assess. But then optimism of the will, meaning to say, you have to move forward and fight for victory. And that's what we do. Oh, I see the surveys, mababa ako. Pero that does not stop us from campaigning for victory. Now, whatever is the result, and then it will just be a, you know, a step for us for further victory. We will never stop until we win.
Attorney Luke Espiritu, who took the internet by storm since last night, and now 18,300 ba? 18,300 followers on Twitter. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you so
with
much.
us. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
This Sunday, yet no other candidate seeking a Senate seat. 3 former officials of the Duterte administration will take part in our 7th CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. Former Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chairman Greco Belgica, former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo, and former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque will answer issues facing the nation. Watch them side by side as they bear their platforms and stances on various matters. That's happening. That's happening this Sunday, March 6 at 7 in the evening. Ria Tanwatco Trillo is hosting, only here on CNN Philippines. And trending in K-pop, congratulations are in order for, somebody please help me pronounce this, Jungkook? Somebody tell me, Jungkook of BTS. I know BTS. The singer graduated today from Global Cyber University with the prestigious honor, the President's Award. In a pre-recorded video, the 24-year-old thanked the school for the accolade. Jungkook began pursuing his degree in broadcast and entertainment at the online university back in 2017. And big news for 17 fans. The 13-member boy group is releasing their first film, 17 Power of Love. The movie will feature performances and in-depth interviews. A theater release worldwide is scheduled for April 20 and 23. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Frequent debate skippers Bongbong Marcos and running mate Sara Duterte no show at the CNN Philippines presidential and vice presidential debates over the weekend. Many were disappointed but not surprised. One vice presidential candidate did not take the sitting down and called the absent tandem cowards.
The main problem that we face is the Marcos-Duterte tandem. No? And I think that they just spat on the face of the Filipino people, telling them, you're not worth my giving you our programs because they have our programs.
In this country where voters are more swayed by candidates' popularity than their platforms, do debates really matter, or are they futile attempts to bask in what's left of democracy's former glory? Because as far as surveys are concerned, the Marcos Duterte tandem are leading the race to Malacanang. They say numbers do not lie, but how close or far are these figures from the reality on the ground? Good evening, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our guests, political analyst Dindo Manhit and Octa Research fellow Guido David, joining us both via Zoom. Thank you very much, Guido and Dindo, and I'm really glad you're here on the show today. We're going to talk about, syempre, debates and surveys. So let's begin with this. Now, the question we need to tackle first is, will or does performance in a debate impact on survey rankings? Just over the weekend, we had the CNN Philippines vice presidential debate on Saturday, February 26, and the presidential debate on February 27, Sunday. When we talk about the surveys, we're talking about, well, let's call it now a pre-debate survey. We had the January 19 to 24 pulsation. We're going to bring it up on your screens in just a bit. BBM leading by 60, by many miles, not just by a mile, many miles, 60%, 60%. Leni Robredo coming in second with 16%, 16%. We're going to bring that up, the graphics, in just a while. Also, the February 8 Octa survey. This is February 12 to 17 survey of Octa. Day 5 of the campaign. Kasi nag-umpisa ang kampanya, national campaign, February 8. So Octa's February 12 to 17 survey shows BBM at 55%, Leni Robredo at 15%. For VP Octa, Sara Duterte 43%, Tito Soto 33%. The Lilo survey also showing BBM at 64%, Leni at 16%. Ang haba ng intro. But again, Dindo and Guido, so the question is, will or does performance in a debate impact will it impact on survey rankings? Dindo?
Of course, debates are very important in a democratic process because it allows us to understand the positions of major candidates, and not only the positions, but really what is in their heart.
All right, I think we have a little bit of a technical internet problem, perhaps, with Dindo Manhit. Let's go to Guido David of Octa. Guido?
Yes, hi, good evening, Pia, and thank you for the invitation. And I agree with Professor Dindo that debates are important, but we have to highlight that debates are important if the public deems that platforms are important for the basis of choosing their candidates. And if we compare it, for example, to the US, the debates are really, it could be a turning point in a campaign because, that's when platforms and, issues are brought up. And, but of course, I can't speak for the public in general. My personal belief is that debates are important for us to identify the candidates that we want to vote on, because how well do we know candidates? I mean, when we conduct surveys frequently, it shows that a lot of Filipinos don't actually know a lot of the other candidates. And this is a time for us to discover, some other candidates that we don't know about, and at least hear what their platform and personal, let's say, principles, ideology are.
So debates are important so that we can find out, we can dissect the platforms of the candidates. But, like you have Bongbong Marcos, who's attended one debate so far, the SMNI debate. It's not clear if he's going to be joining the COMELEC debates either. But he is, he's like, it looks like he's the runaway winner in the surveys.
Of Senator Marcos, he's trying to communicate and stepping beyond really mainstream media. And because what is unique in the 2022 election is really the rise of media, social media, as a second source of news or information, as they prefer or they decide who their choices are for president. studies have shown that. It's even overtaken radio. So I think Senator Marcos has realized that there is a way to communicate directly to voters, avoiding either the discipline of fact-checking or editorial control of news, mainstream news. So he's going straight to the voters through social media.
So what he's saying is that I don't need the debates. With the exception of the SMNI survey, I don't need the debates. I'll go straight to the people. I'll campaign on the ground on Sunday during the CNN Philippines presidential debate. He was in
That's how it
Pangasinan.
looks. Yeah. So it depends on mainstream media that are very important in any functioning democracy to really define and maybe push major candidates, in this case, leading candidates, to take seriously, maybe not specific debate, but maybe even at least the COMELEC debates, whereby there will be media covering them.
Okay. Last week, last Tuesday, I was speaking to Coco Pimentel, and we were talking about the surveys. And so, of course, Manny Pacquiao not doing very well, as the rest of the candidates, no? Number 2, 3, and 4, and 5. And Coco was saying that kasi pandemic survey ito eh. So that will explain kung bakit mababa ang ranking ng mga kandidato nila, kung bakit nangunguna si BBM. You know, what is the truth on that, Guido? Octadas surveys, pandemic survey ba? Talaga nagbabago ba talaga ang ihip ng hangin dahil sa pandemya? Ano ba talaga, Guido?
Well, Pia, it's not about the fact na yung ihip ng hangin ay nagbago. I think it's of course I know it's a figure of speech. But I think it's because of the Omicron surge, for example, which hit our country in January. This pushed back the timeline for the campaign period. So it could have started, it was starting, probably late December, the pre-campaign period, but it should have started in January, but it pushed it back 1 month. And although our survey was conducted February 12 to 17, you could say that it was just fresh off the start of the campaign period. And that's why, we have to, again, remind the public who are looking at the survey results that this is just a snapshot of the sentiment of the surveyed respondents at the time. And there may still be changes. We can't rule that out. And that's why we're, looking forward to the survey results this coming March. So what I'm basically saying is that because the campaign period just started, it may not have changed the pre-campaign numbers that we were seeing last year.
When are you going to do your survey in March, Guido?
Well, I have to check with the team, but it would be sometime mid to late March. And I think the big two firms, SWS and Pulse Asia, will probably have surveys sometime in March as well, probably this around this time.
Halos sabay na rin yon. If you say mid to late March, halos sabay na rin yon sa local campaign. Candidates like to say, well, the candidates na medyo nangungulelat, for lack of a better word, sa surveys, they like to say na yung survey rankings don't bother them because the only survey that matters is the one on election day, no? Pero kapag sila naman ang number one sa kahit anong survey, paniwalang-paniwala naman sila. Lalo na, and I asked this of Coco lalo na kunyari in-house survey sila, tapos number one sila. They believe. How are candidates supposed to, react when media asks them in public na, well, what do you think of this? You're number 2, 3, or a far second or a far third. Tama ba yung mga sagot nilang yon?
I don't really think so, Pia. At the end of the day, you have covered elections after elections. You've seen how credible survey firms that follows the science, the qualitative approach to this type of study has reflected what we saw in actual election day. It could be what some would say political spin, or just to not let their followers feel low about where they stand. But let's accept it. These campaigns have their own surveys, and I don't think it's different from a respected science-driven, scientific approach to getting the pulse, getting the snapshot of the preferences of the public. So they are seeing what we are seeing, which is being shown to us, like the Okta research or what you've said earlier, the Pulse research. This is done in a way that follows certain high standards of statistical methods, scientific methods of generating preferences. It will look the same. So I don't know why they like to say that instead of accepting it. But they need to work hard. They need to convert. They need to reach out to more voters to transfer the votes or convert towards their campaign.
In other words, huwag silang in denial, no, Dindo?
Yes.
Okay. Kaya pa bang humabol ng iba? You know, that's the big question mark. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. Still with us, political analyst Dino Manhit and Okta Research fellow Guido David. We're talking about debates and surveys. The question before the break was, kaya pa bang humabol ng iba? Because, for example, no, Lenny's campaign will say, uy, nag-plus 1%. No? Pero ang layo ni BBM kasi 40 percentage points ahead si Bongbong Marcos as far as the Okta Research survey is concerned. Pulse Asia, 44%. Kaya pa bang humabol, Dido?
It reminds me of where we were in previous presidential election. When you look at the January, February surveys of 2000.
Naku, sayang. Medyo may problema tayo sa signal ni Dido. We're going to get back to him in just a bit. But before that, let's go first to Guido David, who is also joining us via Zoom. Guido, ano bang mga statistical probabilities or improbabilities, if I might say so, for yung, kunyari, si Lenny, no, na humabol pa siya kay BBM?
Yes, Pia, and I think what Professor Dindo was about to say was that if we're looking at past election results, sometimes there's still a leading candidate even until mga February or even March can still be overtaken. In fact, in 2016, I mean, I'm just looking at the survey results, which seem to be fairly reliable. Senator Grace Poe was leading President Duterte at that time. Of course, the margin was close. And then if we're looking also at Vice President Lenny's numbers for the vice presidential candidacy in 2016, she was also, I think, behind two other candidates at this time of the year. So, you can say na tapos ng laban. And as they say, that the true survey, the real survey, will be done on May 9th. Pero, of course, if we are looking at these numbers, we have to say na, I mean, we have to be honest na their work is cut out for them. I mean, they have to work really hard to get their numbers higher if they want to catch up the leading candidate. I mean, for vice president, it's much closer. Pero for president, it's you can say tapos na, but like I said, they have to work hard at it.
Pero ano yung lamang ni Grace Poe noong 2016? Like you said, hindi rin ganun kalaki. Not like, I mean, it's not like this. It's 40 to 40 percentage points, di ba?
Yes. In fact, it was probably less than 5% yung lamang ni Senator Grace Poe at that time. But still, the point was that there could still be some changes. Yes, 40-45% is a really overwhelming margin of lead. But there could still be I mean, there are sometimes inflection points in a campaign period, and a certain event may cause certain changes. We don't know if that will happen. So I think the last thing that they'd want to do is give up, or at least just maintain status quo. I mean, kumbaga, if like playing a game of basketball, kung malaking lead ng kalaban mo by the second or third quarter, you really have to push hard. You can't just play your standard game.
Parang naalala ko tuloy, was it more Lorenzo of the Blue Eagles many decades ago? It's only a 40-point difference. But anyway, Dindo, you were saying earlier before your internet went down, and
Yes,
and
sorry
then
about
answer
that.
in the question, what kind of recalibration must they do if they want to win? Because apparently something's wrong somewhere, right? I mean, they cannot say na, "De, okay kami, okay yung kampanya namin, we will overcome this like in 2016. 2016 is not 2022, right?
Yes. The reality that after a few months of actual, even unofficial campaign, right? Because we started after the filing of the candidacy, campaign should have realized that they have failed to penetrate the voters beyond maybe their bases. In the case of VP Lenny, there are those voters that maybe they have grown from 8 to 18 to even 20%. We've seen those numbers. But can they go beyond that? Because Marcos is within that 50 to 60% mark. So I really see a possibility of a Marcos landslide or a very tight race that we will see Lenny, VP Lenny, maybe Isko, maybe gaining in their different bailiwicks. And we can see where we were in 1992, whereby former President Fidel V. Ramos won with a 24% victory. So things could happen because we are at February surveys. My analysis will be different when maybe we are in April and we still see these numbers.
About a month or two ago, I remember one of the problems, no, yung pinag-uusapan about the Lenny campaign was yung echo chamber, no. So parang sila-sila lang nag-uusap, sila-sila lang, yung ganun ba? Yung ba yung isang dahilan kung bakit ganito yung numbers niya, no? And what must they do, to really overcome that? Because they say that they will win. They say she will win. Well, all candidates say they'll win, no? But come on, man. This is 40%, 40 percentage points.
Every gain will be positive for them, but they really need to look at their campaign and broaden it. As I remember hearing through Pulse Asia saying that, is it possible that VP Lenny has hit a ceiling? I tend to agree, but when you hit a ceiling in a campaign, you tend to look for how do you convert in other voters, or maybe build your campaign and now stay focused on where in the 81 provinces I can build and generate enough support. No, you cannot capture 81 of these provinces. You cannot reach to everyone. Be a more targeted campaign, not simply a shotgun campaign. Where that is, it depends on the campaign itself. They have to do their own strategic arithmetic maybe and see where the votes could come from and work on that. Focus their efforts on that if they'd like to convert voters.
Very interesting term you use, strategic arithmetic. There's a lot of emotion in the campaign. Very, very pink emotion. That's not enough, right?
What you need is to really reach out where the target voters are. And in the case of the Philippines, a big percentage are those coming from social class D. These are people that needs to be communicated, but they need to be communicated in a different way. And there are means now that they can even be communicated through social media. But you have to go beyond, as you've said earlier, that echo chamber and really reach out to these voters.
About 2 months ago, I think that November, December, there was that point in the campaign na lumabas na yung mga volunteers were saying, alam nyo, dapat ang kausapin natin yung ating mga kasambahay, yung mga Class DE. Yung ganun ba, nakatulong ba yan sa kanila?
Any opportunity to talk, not really to look down at this social class. Why define them as kasambahay? The reality, these are Filipino voters being challenged by low income, more so now, 2 years into a pandemic where we are suffering from the economic consequences of this continuing health crisis. You cannot look down at them but basically trying to reach out to them emotionally, that maybe we can really build something together, work with a candidate that can truly be the one that can improve their lives. We have seen data that shows, and we have commissioned some questions with both Pulse Asia and Social Weather Station, that they want somebody who's pro-poor, somebody that is honest and trustworthy, somebody that is not corrupt. So can other candidates offer themselves that? Because right now it seems that is Mr. Marcos.
Yeah, pro-poor, honest, not corrupt, and if the surveys are to be believed, then people are thinking that is BBM,
Yes,
right? Okay.
that's why.
Yeah,
Because
but-
he builds his narrative on that argument. So you have to counter that narrative. You have to challenge that narrative, and maybe try to put some doubt on that narrative.
Challenging, countering, or putting doubt on that narrative, was it enough for Lenny to say, sinungaling kasi siya? Yes or no?
I'm not sure. Let's see
Might-
how the voters will react to that.
Yeah.
We
More
can
from our
only
guests.
analyze the data that we see from legitimate surveys, but the strategy has to be built by the campaign itself.
Okay.
They
More
have
from
to
our
test
guests
it.
when we return. This is Politics as Usual. We have to take a quick break. This is the final stretch of Politics as Usual. Our guests, political analyst, Professor Dindo Manhit, and Octo Research Fellow, Guido David. Guido, some people like to say na may mga online surveys, yung mga surveys na ginagawa sa daan. Pero there are legitimate survey firms, right? So give us give people a reminder, no? Which surveys should we believe in?
Yes, and Pia, there's nothing illegal about conducting your own survey. For example, I can survey my own household or my group of friends, my students, people that I know. But when we conduct surveys like this, and this is not far from what we're seeing, for example, in Calio surveys, how representative is this of the voting population? And that's the difference between a proper methodology, which is properly sampled, because we can take 1,000 people and survey them, but if they're from the same demographic, this will not project to the voting population, and that's why the established firms conduct face-to-face surveys. Firstly, we make sure that the respondents are registered voters and they are in the Philippines. They're not answering online from somewhere from outside the country, and that they're legitimate respondents, and that they will and because of the sampling, we can project this to the entire population and get a reasonable margin of error for the projections. So online surveys and Calio surveys will not be representative, because online sometimes you can have multiple accounts responding to the survey, and there, like I said, if it's not representative, then it may not project properly and be a good guide. I mean, and let's remember, as Professor Dindo mentioned a while ago, I mean, it's really for the end user, for the candidates themselves, so that they can recalibrate properly if they have to make adjustments to their strategies, and not just go for the status quo.
Okay, very quickly now, we have a minute to go, and my last question would be this: in the weeks preceding the deadline for filing of COCs last October, ang pinag-uusapan, what they tried to do was to unite Lenny, Isko, Manny, and Ping, and of course they didn't. No, so will it do any good now? Is it going to help them? Because if they really want to beat BBM, will it help them if they try if they do an attempt at unity now, Dindo?
Maybe it's too late for that. But I think what can be done by them collectively as individual campaigns is really to focus on who their opponents are. In this case, it's really targeting the one on top and try to counter the narratives being shared in multiple platforms, be it mainstream or social media, by Senator Marcos. And that's how they can compete. But it's too late for unity at this time.
Oo. Pero yeah, compete. Tinitira na nga nila si BBM pero ang lakas pa rin, di ba? But anyway, sige, Guido.
I don't think it's at the level whereby when you look at VP Lenny, I always say that she is the most bullied public official in social media since she left the cabinet of President Duterte. So there has to be that counter narrative.
All right, 15 seconds.
We have not seen what has transpired really. It's not happening in mainstream media, but in social media itself. So they have to look at and focus on who they need to challenge really. And that's Mr. Marcos at this time. That's why Mr. Marcos or Senator Marcos is avoiding debates.
15 seconds, sorry Guido.
Yes, well, we only have 2 months left of campaign, so they definitely have to consider their strategies carefully. And as Professor Dindo mentioned, they're probably not penetrating certain demographics as well as they should, and that is basically hurting their campaigns.
Guido David and Dindo Manhit, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pio Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.